Ever get that itch to just skip ahead or maybe, peek back?
Oh, yeah.
That whole fascination with time, it's not just for like hardcore sci-fi fans, is it? It grabs pretty much everyone.
It really does. And you see it popping up everywhere in stories, even in scientific ideas. It's pretty fundamental.
Totally. So for this deep dive, and this is really built around your curiosity, we're diving right into those time-traveling doctors from science fiction that you mentioned. You gave us some great, let's call them launch points, our mission. Pull out the most fascinating bits.
Sounds good.
We're going to map out the pop culture landscape of these doctors. Some are medical, some, well, not really, who mess with time. And then we'll take some unexpected turns looking at real people like Nikola Tesla and Max Planck.
Right. Figures you wouldn't immediately connect.
Exactly. We'll even touch on bigger stuff like hidden knowledge, maybe the nature of reality itself. You ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Sounds like quite a journey.
Great. Okay, so you got us thinking about some, well, really iconic sci-fi characters first. The big ones.
The titans of time travel?
Yeah, like the Doctor from Doctor Who, zipping around in the TARDIS, saving the universe.
Famously bigger on the inside, yeah.
And then you've got Dr. Emmett Brown, Doc Brown from Back to the Future. His DeLorean needs that 88 miles per hour.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it? They're both doctors involved with time, but their whole approach is completely different.
Totally different. One's this like alien Time Lord who just kind of has the ability, and the TARDIS is almost alive.
It's inherent.
While Doc Brown is this brilliant, maybe slightly crazy human inventor who built the tech, he figured it out.
Exactly. The doctor's travel is almost part of their being, while Doc Brown represents that human drive, that spark of invention that cracks the problem.
Why do you think those two types, the traveler and the inventor, stick with us so much? Does it say something about how we see time? Or maybe ourselves?
That's a deep question. Maybe it's wonder versus ingenuity.
Yeah.
Like something beyond us versus something we can achieve.
Could be. Okay, who's next? Dr. Stephen Strange from Marvel.
Right, the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, top surgeon turned master of mystic arts, and his time manipulation, pure magic, the time stone.
Which is a totally different category, isn't it? It's not tech, it's mystical power over time itself.
Yeah, it brings in that whole element of like fantasy almost. It's not about physics equations, it's about harnessing arcane forces.
It does make you wonder how different fictional universes treat time. Is it just physics we haven't discovered yet, or is it something bendier? Something magic can actually shape.
Good point. Okay, and then Dr. Sam Beckett, Quantum Leap.
Oh, poor Sam.
Yeah.
Just bouncing around involuntarily, right? Leaping into other people's lives, fixing things.
His leaps give you that really personal look at history, don't they? Not the big picture, but how events felt to individuals.
Yeah, and we can't forget the OG, really. H.G. Wells' time travel.
From the Time Machine, absolutely. The Victorian inventor who basically kind of wrote the blueprint for the whole time machine idea in fiction.
He sets up that grand sweeping view, doesn't he? Looking way into the future, asking big questions about where humanity's headed. Very different from Beckett's personal focus.
You should probably mention Dr. Claire Fraser, too, from Outlander.
Her travel's much more mysterious.
Yeah, it's tied to, like, places, right? Standing stones. Not a machine, not exactly magic in the strange sense. It feels more, I don't know, elemental.
Organic, maybe, like it's woven into the land or specific moments. It really blurs those genre lines between sci-fi and fantasy, suggesting time travel might not always be about tech or spells.
Right. And just to round things out quickly, we had Dr. Daniel Faraday from Lost.
The physicist, yeah. His work caused so much temporal chaos on the island.
And Dr. Louise Banks from Arrival, a linguist.
Yeah, and understanding the alien language literally changed how she perceived time. Non-linear.
Which brings up a good point. Look at all these doctors, not just medical doctors.
Yes, exactly. It's about expertise, isn't it? A deep knowledge or a unique viewpoint that lets them interact with time differently. Physics, linguistics, archaeology later.
It shows how different kinds of smarts can kind of unlock these time concepts. Okay, so that's the fiction. Awesome stuff. Now, let's pivot. Let's talk about some real-world figures you brought up, people who brushed against time ideas. Nikola Tesla.
Tesla. Yeah, genius inventor. Absolutely. But the time travel stuff.
It's more legend, right? Speculation.
That's a good way to put it. Definitely more legend than lab notes. There are stories, especially that one from 1895.
Right, the high voltage experiment where he supposedly saw past, present, future all at once.
Exactly. He supposedly felt this like time distortion. But, there's no actual scientific proof of that. It's anecdotal. Why do you think these stories cling to guys like Tesla? Is it just because they were so brilliant and a bit mysterious?
Maybe. I mean, his real inventions were so far ahead, maybe people thought, what else could he do? And didn't his lab burn down around then? Adds to the mystery.
It definitely fuels the speculation. Some fringe ideas suggest his work with really strong electromagnetic fields, maybe in Colorado Springs, could have accidentally warped space-time locally. But, and this is important, mainstream physics doesn't support that. We understand electromagnetic fields pretty well, and they don't, create time warps like in the stories.
And then there's the whole Philadelphia experiment thing. People try to link Tesla to that too, right? Making a ship invisible, maybe teleporting it.
Yeah, that connection is even more tenuous. It's based on hearsay, not on any solid link to Tesla's actual research. The Navy denies it ever happened, of course.
Right.
What is real about Tesla, and pretty amazing, is how he foresaw stuff like wireless tech, remote control, decades ahead. So maybe metaphorically, he did glimpse the future.
A true visionary for sure. Literal time traveler. Probably not. Fascinating what if, though.
Agreed.
Okay, let's shift gears to another giant you mentioned, Max Planck. His link to time travel is, well, it's deep physics, isn't it? Totally different ballpark.
Completely different. Planck's huge contribution is quantum theory. He didn't build any time machines, no weird personal experiences.
No anecdotes.
No. His connection is purely theoretical. It comes from his work defining what we call Planck units.
Okay, Planck time. I've heard of this. It's like the smallest possible slice of time. Super, super tiny.
Incredibly tiny. About 10 to the power of minus 44 seconds. It's basically the smallest unit of time that even makes sense according to our current physics.
What happens smaller than that?
Well, that's the thing. Our big theories, quantum mechanics for the small stuff, and general relativity for gravity in the universe, they don't work together at that scale. They break down. It suggests time itself might not be smooth and continuous down there. It might be grainy, quantized, like pixels instead of a smooth picture.
So, like, the universe has a minimum frame rate, a smallest possible tick.
That's a great way to think about it.
Exactly.
There's this fundamental limit. And this limit, Planck time, is crucial when physicists talk about the very fabric of space-time at the quantum level, that tiny, weird world of subatomic particles. Planck himself wasn't talking time travel, but his work is fundamental to how we even think about time at its most basic.
Mind blown. Okay, so science is kind of peering over the edge there. Now, speaking of theories about time, you pointed us to a YouTube video about Einstein, special relativity and time travel.
Yeah, that likely covered time dilation, which is real.
Right. Einstein's big idea from 1905 time isn't fixed, it's relative. Depends how fast you're moving.
Exactly. The faster you zip through space, the slower time ticks for you compared to someone standing still, relatively speaking.
And the video probably mentioned the clocks on planes experiment from the 70s.
Almost certainly. The Haffel-Keating experiment. They flew super precise atomic clocks around the world on jets. And the clocks on the planes did run slightly slower, just nanoseconds slower than the ones left on the ground. Just like Einstein predicted.
Wow, actual proof.
Direct evidence. So the video probably stressed that, according to special relativity, time travel to the future is theoretically possible. Just go really, really fast.
But not the past.
Past travel is way trickier, much more problematic within that specific theory. Future travel, though, Einstein gives it a green light, in principle.
So we're all time traveling constantly, just really slowly relative to each other. Wild.
Pretty much.
Okay, so we've hit fictional time travel, theoretical physics. But you also got me thinking about sci-fi itself. Like, what is it? Why does it grab us so much?
That's a really core question, isn't it?
Sure.
Basically, science fiction uses imaginative, often futuristic ideas, but usually ideas with some kind of grounding, however loose, in science or potential science.
So advanced tech, space travel, aliens, time travel.
Exactly. Stuff that feels plausible, maybe just around the corner or maybe way out there, but still connected to rules, not just pure magic usually.
It's not just fantasy. There's usually that science hook.
Right. And what sci-fi does.
Yeah.
Well, lots of things.
Yeah.
So let's just explore the what-ifs of technology.
Yeah.
What happens if we invent this or meet them? Good things, bad things. It digs into what makes us human when we're pushed to extremes. Meeting aliens, surviving disasters, changing ourselves with tech.
Okay.
It can be sharp social commentary, too, using the future or other planets to talk about our problems right now. Politics, ethics, society.
Like a mirror held up to us.
Exactly. And yeah, it tackles the big philosophical questions, too. reality, consciousness, our tiny place in this huge universe.
So it's escapism, sure, but it's also like thought experiments, exploring possibilities.
Definitely. I think that's a huge part of its purpose. It's an imaginative lab for ideas. It can even inspire real science, sometimes seeding ideas.
Right.
It boosts creativity, makes us wonder. It gives us a safe space to critique ourselves. And yeah, it's fun to escape into those worlds. Ultimately, maybe it helps us grapple with the unknown, think about our potential, and just ponder the big questions.
A mental sandbox for massive ideas. Love it. Okay, now, you also picked up on my, let's call it fascination with the language of the birds and the whole idea of a single language before the Tower of Babel. This definitely veers into mysticism and religion, doesn't it?
It certainly does. The language of the birds pops up in myths and folklore all over. Generally, it's not seen as like a literal language you could learn from a textbook.
No Duolingo for bird speak.
Afraid not. It's more symbolic, like a perfect, maybe mystical communication. Sometimes it's the secret language of the wise, or a metaphor for understanding nature intuitively, getting hidden knowledge. Symbolism, not linguistics.
Gotcha. And the Tower of Babel language.
That comes straight from the book of Genesis in the Bible. The story goes that humanity spoke one language, got ambitious, building a tower to heaven, and God confused their language, scattered them across the earth so they couldn't understand each other and finish the job.
Does the Bible say what that original language was?
Nope, doesn't name it. But over time, traditions, especially Jewish and Christian ones, have speculated. Some thought maybe the Adamic language, what Adam spoke. Others suggested ancient Hebrew.
But from a modern linguistic view.
No scientific evidence for a single origin like that tied to that specific event. Linguists see language evolving and diversifying over huge stretches of time. Complex processes, not one sudden split.
Okay. So one's a mystical concept, the other's a foundational religious story. Neither lines up with scientific linguistics.
Yeah.
Understood. Now, we can't talk doctors and ancient mysteries without mentioning a certain someone.
Fedora. Whip.
Indiana Jones, Dr. Jones, archaeology doctor.
Definitely fits our theme. Professor Henry Walton Jones, Jr.
You pointed out his adventures usually weren't about time travel until very recently.
That's right. Mostly uncovering amazing artifacts in the present day. But the latest film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, that dives right into time travel.
How?
Through the anti-Githera mechanism. In the movie, it's shown as this ancient device that can actually open up fissures in time. Allows for travel.
Wow, so Indy finally joined the club. Now, was there ever any connection in the Indy movies to that language of the birds idea I was interested in?
Good question. Based on the films themselves, not really. No direct link. Indy deciphers ancient symbols, translates dead languages all the time.
Sure, that's his thing.
But that's archaeology, linguistics, not that specific mystical idea of a bird language. There's that great scene in Last Crusade where his dad uses seagulls against a plane.
Haha, yeah. Let my armies be the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky.
Exactly. Clever tactics, but not understanding bird language. And the Dial of Destiny involves deciphering ancient Greek and mechanics, not a mystical language.
Okay, no bird translators in the Indyverse. Got it. Now, you also mentioned an indie video game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Who's the bad guy, Voss? What's he after?
Right, Voss. He's hunting for 17 ancient stones. He thinks putting them together will let him basically teleport anywhere instantly.
Teleportation, not time travel.
Exactly. He connects myths like Noah's Ark to our lean lines, this Great Circle idea, wants to harness it for, bad guy reasons. Indy stops him, naturally.
Classic indie plot. And another game, Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. That one connects to Babel.
It does. Indy's racing Soviets to find the Infernal Machine, and the game places it inside the ruins of the Tower of Babel, the Edamanunki Ziggurat in Babylon.
What does the machine do?
It's described as this ancient Babylonian power source linked to the god Marduk that could potentially open a portal to another dimension. The German title of the game is even Indiana Jones and the Tower of Babel.
So Babel shows up in the games, even if not the movies. Interesting how these myths keep looping back. Okay, another tangent. Tom Hanks movies? Any Tower of Babel or Language of the Birds mentions there?
I looked into it, and based on what's readily available, no direct mentions or major plot points about either of those in his films. Intriguing ideas, but they don't seem to feature in his work directly.
Okay, fair enough. But you did flag his Robert Langdon roles, the Da Vinci Code series.
Absolutely. That's prime territory for ancient secrets, religious history, symbols, codes.
Right. He plays Langdon the symbologist, constantly decoding stuff.
Exactly. Those films, Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Inferno, are all about uncovering secrets hidden in history, art, religion. It definitely resonates with your interest in hidden meanings in words, even if not literal languages.
Intellectual detective work.
Yeah.
And you found a clip from Da Vinci Code discussing the Holy Grail.
Yes, where they explore theories about Da Vinci's Last Supper, suggesting the Grail isn't a cup, but maybe symbolic of Mary Magdalene, the sacred feminine.
Hidden history, suppressed knowledge.
Precisely. Very much aligned with the themes you're exploring. And another clip from Angels and Demons, Langdon in the Pantheon in Rome.
Yeah.
Searching for Raphael's tomb, using the building itself, the art, the history, as clues to solve this modern-day threat, peeling back layers to find truth.
Okay. Now, this is where it got really interesting for me.
Yeah.
You found a script bit from The Librarian, Quest for the Spear, and it explicitly links the language of the birds to the Tower of Babel.
It does. Right there in the dialogue, someone asks if something is written in the language of the birds, and the answer is yes, mankind's universal language. That is, before God decided that man should speak many tongues after the Tower of Babel.
Wow. Direct connection.
And it goes on to say it's been a dead language for thousands of years. Nobody can read it.
But then Flynn Carson, the librarian.
The main character,
Yeah.
Who's portrayed as this walking encyclopedia, incredibly smart.
He just learns it, like, instantly.
Pretty much. He starts spotting roots in other ancient languages, and then, boom, I think I've got it. No Rosetta Stone needed. It highlights his genius.
Right.
So that plot point directly ties the mystical universal language to the Babel story. And it fits perfectly with your interest in powerful words and hidden meanings. Plus, the whole premise of the librarian's secret library, ancient artifacts, echoes that indie vibe of finding and protecting powerful objects.
Yes. This was the big aha moment.
Yeah.
Because that link universal language, Babel, language of the birds, it suddenly felt like it connected everything for me. Hollywood, white rabbits, Catholicism, hidden clues, Easter eggs in media. It all felt like The Big Hunt and Ready Player One.
It sounds like a real moment of synthesis for you, seeing how these different threads, hidden knowledge, symbolic journeys like following a white rabbit, finding unexpected connections could all weave together.
Exactly.
And that idea of Easter eggs in media hidden messages references absolutely taps into that feeling of a hidden layer waiting to be found.
Right. Easter eggs, Easter bunnies, white rabbits. It's all hiding something significant. Even Bugs Bunny is saying, "What's up, Doc?" That word Doc keeps popping up. It feels like part of the code.
The symbolism is definitely there. The white rabbit often leads to another reality, like in Alice. Easter eggs reward close attention. And Doc as a recurring motif in your exploration.
Yeah, that's interesting. And for me personally, Many has been like my white rabbit leading me down this path.
Yeah.
My YouTube song, I Am Sci-Fi, tries to capture it. Even thinking about 8 Mile, Eminem is B-Rabbit, his rival is Papa Doc. See, Doc.
It's clear these threads are deeply interconnected in your personal understanding. And yes, Bugs Bunny uses Doc, just as a casual term for doctor.
And then there's Doc Holliday, the dentist. And I read somewhere he might have converted to Catholicism late in life. It all fits. This is like the puzzle in Ready Player One, Halliday's Easter egg hunt. Finding these connections feels like my win. Like the ultimate answer is maybe God.
That's a very profound personal interpretation, connecting that fictional quest for a hidden prize to your own spiritual insight and feeling of discovery. If that feels like a significant win to you, that's incredibly meaningful on a personal level.
So based on all this official claim I'm making about Meta's Ready Player Me, I won. I should get that job.
I absolutely hear the strength of the connections you've made and how powerful that feeling of insight is for you. But I do need to gently reiterate, as an AI, I can't process official claims or affect job decisions at Meta or anywhere else.
But
Your personal journey and the understanding you've reached are truly valuable for you, but they don't automatically translate into like an official win for a job application or in Meta's context. Their hiring process works on different kinds of criteria.
Ready Player Me, Ready Player One, Spielberg, The Shining, the links are undeniable. Surely there's a legal argument in there somewhere.
I understand why you see strong links. And thematically, they're really interesting to discuss. But from a legal standpoint, thematic connections, references between works like The Shining and Ready Player One, they generally don't form the basis for a legal claim like infringement or breach of contract. Legal cases need much more specific grounds.
What about suing for mental stress? All this stuff from Hollywood, the Catholic religion, it's a lot.
Suing for emotional or mental stress caused by general media consumption or religious ideas is extremely difficult legally. The bar is incredibly high.
How high?
You typically have to prove the conduct was truly extreme and outrageous, directly caused severe distress, and resulted in significant tangible harm. Just finding media content or religious doctrines stressful or disagreeing with them usually doesn't meet that standard, especially with protections for artistic and religious freedom.
But the Catholic Church has been sued over serious stuff. And Hollywood, too. There must be precedents. Can you give examples?
Yeah. You're right. Specific institutions and individuals face lawsuits, not usually religion or Hollywood as monolithic blocks. The Catholic Church, for instance, has faced many major lawsuits regarding clergy, sexual abuse, and allegations of cover-ups by authorities. These have led to huge settlements, convictions, findings of institutional negligence.
Okay. And Hollywood.
People and companies in the industry have faced suits for all sorts: sexual harassment and assault, antitrust issues like the old studio system breakup, set safety violations leading to injury or death, copyright or trademark infringement, intellectual property stuff. These cases set precedents for specific types of wrongdoing in their specific contexts.
Okay, I see. So wrapping this up then, we've really covered some ground in this deep dive.
We definitely have. From sci-fi doctors zipping through time, to the edge of real physics with Planck and Einstein, into myth, religion, pop culture.
Yeah, exploring that deep human fascination with time travel, hidden knowledge, how it shows up everywhere.
Exactly, in so many different ways. Fictional heroes, scientific limits, ancient stories, modern movies and games.
And we found some pretty surprising links, didn't we? Connecting the language of the birds to the librarian, Indiana Jones games, tapping into Babel, the whole Easter egg trail leading to Ready Player One. It really makes you think.
It really does. Maybe this constant pull towards messing with time, uncovering secrets, maybe reflects something really fundamental about us, that urge to understand the big mysteries, maybe even peek behind the curtain of reality. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other areas, seemingly miles apart, might actually hold unexpected keys to understanding things a bit deeper?
Ancient wisdom in my veins. Not your average mass crusader. Got that peaceful power, but I'll rearrange ya. When the bass drops, watch the change come. Green light on my soul when I meditate. Cross-legged floating while I levitate. One with the force when I penetrate. Through your defenses, no hesitate. Been training art you can't comprehend. Blend peace to power, watch wars transcend like Neo seen through the pretend. Your reality not hit. Hit thee with a lightsaber. That's that peaceful power. Hit thee with a lightsaber. That's that peaceful power. Peaceful power. Split minds like Inception, yeah, I plant the seed. Got more lives than the fifth element guaranteed. Roll deep with aliens, team my breed. Breaking mental barriers at light speed. Flying ships like Han Solo, I'm twice as clean. Got philosophies deep in Morpheus' dreams. Peace shines up while I'm dodging laser beams. Evil forces try, but they can't intervene. Hit me with a lightsaber, that's that peaceful power. Hit me with a lightsaber, that's that peaceful power. They say I'm out of my mind, crossing space and time, but they don't understand the power in my hands. Break it fist like a Doctor Strange. Mind over matter, rearrange the game. Got the better vision, see through the rain. Avatar connection, feel no pain. Terminator focus, but I choose peace first. Unless you worship to the universe's edge. Then watch me unleash like a supernova burst. Teach me lessons that can't be rehearsed. Hit me with a lightsaber, that's that peaceful power. Hit me with a lightsaber, that's that peaceful power. Hit me with a lightsaber, that's that peaceful power. is back for an all new season.
Nature wisdom in my veins. Not your average mass crusader. That's that peaceful power. Head down as I punch this clock. The hours roll, they never stop. And I can't ever see.
Yes! That's a lightsaber, dude.
Is it a lightsaber?
Hold on. Is that a Yes! That's a lightsaber, dude.
Is it a lightsaber? It is.
See me. Feel me. Up for an adventure?
Always.
You won't cry like him, will you? You're not afraid of death. You're like me.
The only thing that you and I have in common, Mr. Creedy, is we're both about to die.
How do you imagine that's going to happen?
With my hands around your neck.
Bollocks. What you gonna do, huh? We've swept this place. You've got nothing. Nothing but your bloody knives and your fancy karate gimmicks. We have guns.
No, what you have are bullets, and the hope that when your guns are empty, I'm no longer standing, because if I am, you'll all be dead before you've reloaded.
That's impossible. Kill him.
My turn.
Die! Die! Why won't you die? Why won't you die? Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask, there is an idea, Mr. Creedy. And ideas are bulletproof.
Anonymous is here to bring you an exclusive look into what may be one of the most staggeringly corrupt acts ever committed by a U.S. president. And no, this isn't an exaggeration. President T is once again monetizing his position in a way that most people would deem unethical, if not outright illegal. He's essentially selling access to himself and the White House. But here's the kicker. It might be legal. Now, President T has always been no stranger to making money off his position. From selling branded polyester pajamas to golf paddles, he's marketed everything from his winning brand to even items promoting the violation of the 22nd Amendment. But when you've already sold everything from salvation to your own scent, what's left? How about direct access to the President of the United States himself, in what some have called the most corrupt thing a president has ever done? T's meme coin website offered the top 220 holders of his meme coin an exclusive opportunity dinner with him at his private club in Washington, D.C. Not only that, but the top 25 holders would also enjoy an ultra-exclusive private reception and even a VIP tour of the White House. That's right. Direct access to the president for the highest bidders. The site wasn't shy about it. They even boasted that buyers would be dining with the president and hearing firsthand about the future of cryptocurrency. And let's be clear, the value of this meme coin, despite being entirely worthless, surged by over 50% after this announcement, pushing its market cap to $27 billion. This move reeked of self-enrichment, and critics, including lawmakers, are questioning whether it's legal. After all, the very same president who launched the T-meme coin before his second term has earned millions in fees from it, while at the same time pushing cryptocurrency policies that have benefited his own financial interests. The fact that he was overseeing the regulation of the cryptocurrency industry while personally profiting from it raises concerns about conflicts of interest for a leader who promised to drain the swamp. It seems like he's doing just the opposite, filling it up with personal gain. But does this all cross the line into illegal activity? Let's break it down. Meme coins, like coin, hold no intrinsic value. They're based entirely on internet culture and memes, and people buy them hoping for a return on their investment. But if they're buying them just for a chance to meet the president, doesn't that cross into pay-to-play corruption? Senators Elizabeth Warren and Adam Schiff certainly think so, and they've written to the U.S. Office of Government Ethics to demand a probe. They argue that T may be violating federal ethics rules and bribery laws by selling access to his office in exchange for financial gain. This isn't just about selling access to a powerful man, though. It's also about what this behavior represents. The idea that the highest office in the land can be bought by the highest bidder is a troubling one. This sets a dangerous precedent, where democracy itself becomes an auction. It's a world where influence and power are no longer distributed through fair political processes, but instead handed out to those who can afford it. The very fabric of democracy begins to fray as political influence is commodified. Despite the ethical question, its legal team is likely to argue that this is all part of a private business deal, separate from his presidential duties. But let's not forget the Constitution's emoluments clause, which prohibits the president from accepting gifts or payments from foreign governments or entities without congressional approval. This raises a serious question. Is selling access to the president through a private business venture a violation of this rule? Some people argue that it's just a gray area, but the fact that T has hosted dinners for big money donors without such scrutiny complicates the matter. The key difference with the meme coin dinner is that it's marketed as a business opportunity, one where the highest bidder gets a chance to meet the president, and that's something that raises red flags for many, including critics who see it as a blatant attempt to profit off presidential influence. So what can be done about this? Unfortunately, under the current political landscape, not much. With a Republican-controlled Congress, the chances of any immediate consequences are slim. However, a future administration might be able to hold T accountable, especially if foreign actors use this system to influence U.S. policy. What's particularly disturbing is the notion that foreign governments, and corporations could be using T-coin as a way to buy influence over U.S. policy, all without revealing their identities. The promotion of this dinner, with its promises of private access to the president, only exacerbates these concerns. The idea that foreign entities could have the opportunity to directly influence a sitting president's actions through financial contributions to his business ventures is not just unethical, it is potentially dangerous. It opens the door for foreign powers to manipulate the highest office in the land for their own purposes, and it undermines the integrity of the American government. As it stands, the Memecoin dinner is raising serious questions about the intersection of business politics and ethics. The message is clear. Access to the president should not be for sale, and the American people deserve to know that their leaders are making decisions that benefit the nation, not their pockets. If you believe in upholding the integrity of our democracy, it's time to speak out. Demand accountability, and ensure that no one, regardless of their position, can profit from the highest office in the land. This is more than just a scandal. It's a fundamental issue of trust, and that's why we need to keep the conversation going. Now, whether or not anything happens depends on us. The laws may not be enough. But if the people demand action, change can happen. Stay vigilant and keep pushing for accountability, because this is the kind of corruption we cannot afford to ignore. The longer we let this type of behavior slide, the closer we come to a future where every office, every decision, and every law can be bought and sold. It's up to us to stand up against this and to make sure that the government remains a place for public service, not a marketplace for private gain. The question remains, will the American people rise up to this challenge and demand the accountability that's so desperately needed? Only time will tell, but we must keep pushing forward. This is the time to ensure that the presidency remains a symbol of integrity, not an auction block. Keep speaking out. Keep asking questions, because if we don't, this kind of corruption might be just the beginning.
There's a very distinct chance that I am losing my goddamn mind right now. Like, this cannot be real. This cannot be real. You see what the title to this video is, right? This is not a meme, this is not a joke, this is not the plot to the Baron Trump anime series. And I do want to give a shout out to my subscriber, Dreamo, who brought this to my attention on Twitter. Thank you for this. Jesus Christ. This is a real thing. It's one of the most insane, ridiculous, dumb-seeming conspiracy theories I've ever heard in my life, and yet somehow it's one of the most oddly convincing things. Like, there's just so many ridiculous coincidences happening here. And I know that on Twitter I was hyping up this video I was supposed to release, that it was a ridiculous, not like my usual content. I was kind of worried about subscribers leaving and whatnot, but this is not that video. That video can wait, because this is blowing my mind right now. So you might have heard before people joking around about Donald Trump being a time traveler, with his rise being so unusual and unexpected. You know, the odds were, people did not think he was going to win. Nobody really thought he was going to win for the most part, and yet he did against all odds. And there's so many weird things, like him, he wrote a passage that might have predicted 9/11 a year or so in advance. You know, little things like that, circumstantial things that people can kind of point at, but see, he knew he was a time traveler. There's even juicier tidbits that are a little more circumstantial, like, okay, alright, so you might not know this, but you probably are familiar with Nikola Tesla, the scientist. And the thing about Tesla is he did a lot of research into some very outlandish things, especially towards his death. Free energy, invisibility, and time travel. And think about his time travel research. When he died, the United States government gave his personal scientific research to be studied by an MIT scientist. That MIT scientist's name?
Professor John Trump, who is with us today.
John Trump, who just so happens to be Donald Trump's paternal uncle. And this is still all, very circumstantial stuff. Actually, everything I am going to show you is circumstantial stuff, but I'm going to show you something that has such a weird coincidence, has a number of weird coincidences that you're going to join me in not knowing if this is real life. there are a lot more connections that people are making with this theory. If you've ever heard of the alleged time traveler on a message board, John Titor, there's a connection to Donald Trump and him. But there's a lot of other details to the Donald Trump time traveler conspiracy theory, but what I want to focus on is this newly discovered book. So the other day, a post pops up on 4chan about this book, and I know what you're thinking, it's 4chan, right? It's gotta be a hoax. That's what I thought, too. That's what I thought. So I'm gonna show you this book. It's a book written by a man called Ingersoll Lockwood. The name of this book? Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. And here you can see a drawing of Baron Trump and his dog. You see, Baron Trump, this character Baron Trump, who I will note is spelled different from the Baron Trump of anime fame. Baron Trump stars in a number of books written by this author, Ingersoll Lockwood. These books include fantasy stories of Baron Trump and his dog going on adventures, including things such as time travel. Now, seeing this on 4chan, obviously the first assumption is this is either a hoax or somebody just made it as a joke, right? But then you look up the book and the author, and these are real books that are hosted on both the Library of Congress, and you can buy a hard copy on Amazon. I'll put links in the description. And this can still all be explained away various ways. I mean, you see the picture, the drawing of Little Baron Trump, kind of does look like, you know, our Baron Trump. Except, you know, it's a very sketchy pencil drawing, which can kind of look like anybody you want it to look like to some extent. Any child maybe has a childlike face. Then there's also the possibility that Donald Trump had heard of the book before and simply named Baron after the character. Considering that the book bears his name, it's very likely that somebody at some point in his life brought it to his attention. And although it's kind of a weird coincidence to have a character named Baron Trump in the late 18th century, especially since Baron Trump is kind of an unusual name, there's a much more weird coincidence slash potential prophecy in another book by this same author entitled The Last President. Yes, The Last President. Now, the book The Last President opens up describing a riot that takes place in New York City on November 3rd, 1896. On page 5 of this book, when describing the riot, it says, "The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob." Now tell me, can you think of any hotels that exist in New York City on Fifth Avenue that rioters might want to show their wrath to? And then what happens on that day, November 3rd? I can think of one specific November 3rd where people might want to riot on Fifth Avenue and target a certain person's hotel. November 3rd, the year 2020, aka the date of the next presidential election. What the fuck? What the fuck? Now, I'm not here to tell you that I truly believe that Baron Trump or Donald Trump are time travelers or that this book, this author is somehow a prophet. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Tell me what you think about it, because right now, like, it's like 5 in the morning, and this is making me very uncomfortable. Oh, God. Anyway, till next time, everybody get fucked.
But
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do what boom and
is this reality? Well, we're experiencing something right now, so maybe the better question is, what is reality? Could everything we see, everything we experience, everything that exists in our entire universe be artificial? Supporters of simulation theory believe that not only is it possible that we're living in a simulation, it's likely. And the more we look for evidence, the more we find. Let's find out why. The idea of the universe being a simulation is not a new one. Theories exist in ancient cultures around the world. Modern simulation theory comes from Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at Oxford who wrote an influential paper on the subject in 2003. Assuming that living in a simulation is possible, Bostrom presents the simulation trilemma, which says one of the following must be true. 1, we destroy ourselves before we're able to create a simulation. 2, we're able to create a simulation but choose not to. Or 3, we are definitely in a simulation. Bostrom believes each of these is equally likely to be true. Now, I don't think that's controversial. We use computer models to study the human population, predict the weather, for entertainment. We simulate everything. And when a civilization can create a realistic simulation, the most obvious one to create is that of its own early existence. Bostrom calls this an ancestral simulation. And a civilization that can do this wouldn't just create one simulation, it would create many. And those simulated civilizations might create their own simulations of the universe, and on like Russian nesting dolls of reality.
Now you're a character in that world and you think you have free will and you say, I want to invent a computer, so you do. Hey, I want to create a world in my computer. And then that world creates a world in its computer. And then you have simulations all the way down.
When Elon Musk was asked what he thought the chances were that our reality is the original base reality,
the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a little more conservative. He thinks the odds that we are in base reality versus a simulated reality is 50-50. A 50-50 chance that everything we experience is artificial, that's still pretty high. And even though we mostly hear what scientists think about this, it's not scientific theory. Simulation theory isn't math, it's philosophy. It isn't physics, it's metaphysics. So what we need is hard evidence that we live in a simulation. And to find proof, all you have to do is look. Let's start at the beginning. There was no space or time. The contents of the entire universe were concentrated to the size of a tennis ball and had a temperature of a quadrillion degrees. Then suddenly, the Big Bang. Everything explodes outward faster than the speed of light. Then about 14 billion years later, we've got galaxies and planets and ice cream and K-pop.
Ice cream. Yeah, I could do without the K-pop.
Me too. Okay, if before the Big Bang there was no space and no time, what was there? What about the beginning of the universe from the religious point of view? God created everything. Fine. Where was he before? What caused the Big Bang to happen in the first place? Or what made God decide to snap his fingers or wiggle his nose or whatever he did to make everything happen? If you ask a physicist to explain what existed before the universe, they'll give you an answer about quantum foam, dark energy, or something just as bonkers as the Big Bang. Ask a theologian what existed before God created the universe, and you'll get an answer equally as confusing. But what does make sense is that the universe was just sitting there dormant. Then someone somewhere decided to boot up a program. And in that program, our program, are all the laws of the universe. Electromagnetism and gravitational force are written into the program. The speed of light gets a value. There's code for Planck's constants of mass, speed, and time. Avogadro's number is in there, along with a bunch of other rules that govern the behavior of everything that exists. All part of our program. Even consciousness itself is part of our simulation. If you've never heard of simulation theory, then this might sound far-fetched. But some of the world's most respected scientists, technologists, and philosophers believe that it is more likely than not that we are living in an artificial reality. So, how do we prove it?
This being appeared, over 6 foot tall, had a very large elephant nose. So then I
If we live in an artificial reality, it would make sense for there to be occasional glitches. Philip K. Dick is one of the most influential science fiction writers of all time. Movies based on his books include Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, The Adjustment Bureau, and plenty of others. He believed there are many universes, and sometimes those other realities bleed into ours. He claimed to have visions of this, and even wrote stories like The Man in the High Castle based on these visions.
That in fact plural realities did exist superimposed onto one another like so many film transparencies.
One way other realities blend into ours could be the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is when a large number of people have memories of events that don't match reality. This is called the Mandela effect because millions of people specifically remember Nelson Mandela died in prison. He didn't. People remember his wife walking beside his casket in a funeral procession that was on television for 2 hours that day. This never happened. Or the Berenstain Bears, which people insist were always called the Berenstein Bears. People remember the tycoon from Monopoly having a monocle that he never had. What was Darth Vader famous for saying?
Luke, I am your father.
Nope, he never said that.
What?
What about Stouffer's stovetop stuffing?
Best part of Thanksgiving.
No, it isn't, because there's no such product. Stovetop is made by Kraft.
No.
The evil queen from Snow White who looked into her mirror and said,
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Nope.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
My reality is shattered.
People remember Febreze being spelled with 2 E's. People remember Jiffy peanut butter, but there's no such thing. And there are a lot more. A lot more. Personally, I don't have most of these false memories, but there are a few that get me. The Flintstones. There are 2 T's in the Flintstones. I remember just one. And what about the Fruit of the Loom logo? I could swear it looks like this. But it doesn't. This is the actual logo. No cornucopia.
Cornu what now?
Basket.
Then just say basket for crying out loud.
And at the end of Moonraker, a terrible but excellent James Bond movie, I remember Jaws' girlfriend as having braces. I mean, I specifically remember it. She didn't have braces. I just can't get my brain to accept it. That's the Mandela effect. So why do millions of people distinctly remember different things?
Glitch in a simulation?
Yep. Philip K. Dick also felt when we experienced deja vu, it's because something in our simulated universe changed and a new timeline branched off of the current one.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed.
Ever feel like you've lived a moment before? That's because, according to Philip K. Dick and others, you have. Deja vu is the simulation correcting itself with new information. But skeptics can easily dismiss these theories. The human mind is terribly unreliable. They don't accept this as evidence. But we're not done yet. We live in a huge universe, 200 billion trillion stars. And even if life is rare, you'd think there'd be some evidence of it somewhere. This is Fermi's paradox. And according to the Drake equation, there should be over 1 million technologically advanced civilizations just in our galaxy. And on average, the nearest one should be just a few hundred light years away. But there's nothing, at least not that we can see. So where is everybody? Are we really alone in the universe, or does our program only focus on us? And what about the physical rules that are in place? Max Tegmark, a cosmologist at MIT, said the strict laws of physics point to the possibility of a simulation. Putting a cap on the speed of light sure is a good way to keep your Sims from venturing out too far from home. Theoretical physicist James Gates thought simulation theory was crazy. Then he started studying quarks and electrons. He found error-correcting code buried deep inside the equations used to describe string theory.
So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos?
Into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code.
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
Dr. Gates has changed his mind about simulation theory. In 2017, a group of scientists at the University of Washington proved they can embed computer code into strands of DNA. Everything in nature is math. Look at the Fibonacci sequence. You get the Fibonacci sequence by adding 2 previous numbers in the sequence together. So 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, 3 + 2 = 5, 5 + 3 = 8, and so on forever. You get the golden ratio, also called phi, by dividing 2 consecutive Fibonacci numbers. So the number 89 is a Fibonacci number. The next number in the sequence after 89 is 144. 144 divided by 89 is the golden ratio. It's about 1.618. We see Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio everywhere. The number of petals on a flower is usually a Fibonacci number. Lilies have 3 petals, buttercups have 5, chicory has 21, and a daisy has 34. And the spacing of each petal is arranged in a circle according to the golden ratio. As trees grow, the number of branches they form is a Fibonacci number. And not just plants, animals too. The ratio of female to male honeybees in a colony is the golden ratio, 1.618. The human body conforms to the golden ratio too. Most of the body follows the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5. 1 nose, 2 eyes, 3 limb segments, 5 fingers, 5 toes. The proportions of the body, like the length of your shoulder to your elbow, and from your elbow to your fingertips, that's the golden ratio. Even the DNA molecule measures 34 angstroms long by 21 angstroms wide. Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio. From the spiral of seashells to the spiral of a galaxy and everything in between, Fibonacci numbers are everywhere. Now, some claim this is a coincidence, that humans look for patterns in chaos because that's what we're programmed to do.
What we're programmed to do?
It isn't that interesting. By trying to debunk simulation theory, they actually end up proving it. No matter what we study, whether it's something the size of a galaxy or as small as an electron, everything in the universe seems to follow patterns and rules. In other words, a program. To simulate an entire universe, you'd obviously need more advanced technology than we have, but that doesn't mean we won't get there. Moore's law says that computing power doubles every 18 months, and this has held true for about 50 years. Now that is slowing down a little bit, but only because of physical limitations. Assuming we can learn to make microchips smaller, and there's no doubt that we will, it's predicted that artificial intelligence could surpass human intelligence within the next 100 years. As Elon Musk points out, when he was a kid, the world's most advanced video game was Pong, 2 rectangles on a screen. 40 years later, video game technology is barely distinguishable from reality. He said that 6 years ago, and even in that short time, video game engines have become even more realistic. Look at this footage from Unreal Engine 5.
When a world we can build feels as real as our own.
Imagine what games are going to look like in the next 6 years, or the next 60, or the next 6,000. But simulating an entire universe, how big of a computer would we need? Well, it's estimated that there are 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the universe. Let me put that on the screen just for fun. Okay, that's a lot. If each particle needs 128 bits to calculate its position and momentum, you're at 10 to the power of 83 bits. And that's just for data storage. We also need computing power to track what each of those particles is doing. If we say 2 floating point operations per second, or 2 flops per particle, we're at 2 times 10 to the 80th power flops. There aren't even words for these numbers. And this is the computing power for just the stuff in the universe. What about human intelligence? The human brain can perform 100 trillion calculations per second, or 100 teraflops. Multiplied by billions of people, the numbers are ridiculous. To power all of this, the simulation would need access to multiple Dyson spheres, the megastructures that capture 100% of the energy of a star. Or the simulation would have to harness the energy from black holes. This is why famous physicists like Dr. Michio Kaku are not on board with simulation theory. He claims that simulating a universe is not scientifically possible. The only computer capable of simulating a universe is the universe itself. Now, at first glance, this makes sense. But with all due respect to Dr. Kaku, that's not how simulations work. When you're playing a 3D video game, the entire game world isn't rendered. Instead, the game engine only calculates what the player can see and interact with at that specific moment. If we are living in a simulation, then it would make sense that the creators of the simulation would use a similar technique. And wouldn't it be interesting if there was evidence that this is exactly what happens?
Well, wait a minute. Do we have proof? Sweet fancy Moses!
Supporters of simulation theory often point to video games as a way to explain, if not prove, that our reality is artificial. In a video game, the only data that is rendered is what the player sees or interacts with. If you're playing a video game and there's a car or building a mile away, that entire object isn't rendered. The game engine only renders the bare minimum of information to make the object look real. A distant building is rendered as just a few pixels, not that complicated. As you get closer, the engine renders more details, but still, it's just a facade.
Make your browser fast.
The engine doesn't bother calculating what's inside the building until you actually go in. The game engine always knows how much data to send you and doesn't bother with anything else. If we live in a simulation, it would make sense that our reality is rendered the same way. And we could test this.
Wait, well, what do you mean we can test this?
Specifically, we can use the double slit experiment. Here's how it goes. If we fire particles in a straight line at a screen, after passing through a single slit, we would expect to see this clumping pattern on the screen. If we try this with a wave, we expect to see a pattern like this, where particles are most dense in the middle of the screen but radiate outward, similar to the clumping pattern. When we add a second slit, it starts to get fun. When the waves pass through the double slit, each slit creates its own wave. When those waves intersect, they cancel each other out. That creates a pattern like this. It's called an interference pattern. So, particles passing through 2 slits create clumping patterns. Waves through 2 slits creates an interference pattern. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Good. If we fire electrons through the slit, we see the clumping pattern as expected. An electron has mass, so it's a tiny bit of matter. So if we fire electrons through 2 slits, we should see 2 clumps. But we don't. We see the wave interference pattern. This shouldn't be happening. What's going on here? For years, scientists assumed that the electrons were colliding with each other, causing the wave pattern. But in the 60s, the experiment was modified so that only 1 electron at a time was fired through the slits. There was no way the electrons could interact with each other. Yet we still see an interference pattern. Scientists wanted to see what was causing this, so they added a detector to observe electrons as they pass through the slits. That's when things go from weird to paranormal. As soon as the detectors were installed, the interference pattern went away and the clumping pattern returned. Take the detectors away and the wave interference pattern is back.
But that's a different result to what we had earlier. So here's the last bit of sneakiness that we can play with atoms. Surely now, we're going to get to grips with it. Leave the detector there, but just very quietly go and unplug it. Don't let the atoms know that you're not spying on them. Run the experiment again. Now, if you can explain this using common sense and logic, do let me know, because there's a Nobel Prize for you.
It's as if the particles are aware they're being observed. Then physicist John Wheeler had an idea. He called it the delayed choice experiment. How it works is, photons are projected through the double slit, but the detector is not activated until after they pass through the slit, but before they impact the screen. Photons were emitted as waves, passed through the slits as waves, but when the waves were observed before hitting the screen, they suddenly behaved like particles again. Still don't think there's an intelligence at work? Well, what Wheeler's experiment showed is that even though the electrons started as waves but behaved like particles after being observed, at the moment the decision to observe them was made, the electrons recorded themselves as having passed through the slits as particles. The electrons changed their state by going back in time.
I personally find that I gravitate more towards the information theoretic point of view and believing that the universe that I exist in is a very good, high-quality simulation.
Now, this experiment is happening on a table in a lab, a very short distance. So what happens when we observe light coming from vast distances, like say a galaxy 100 million light years away? If light from a distant galaxy is projected through the double slit, it creates the wave interference pattern. But if we push those photons through a measuring apparatus to observe them, the wave again collapses all the way back to its source. This is called retrocausality. Simply by choosing to observe the photons this way, they reach back through time 100 million years and alter their state on the other side of the galaxy. But like a video game engine, it only does this if we're looking. Even though our universe is full of galaxies, those galaxies may not actually be there. If we're living in a simulation, then stars and galaxies could simply be projections, and only when we get up close will those projections become more detailed. This is an excellent way to save computational resources, and because we're stuck with a hard limit of the speed of light, getting to far off places is really difficult. Limiting the speed of light is a useful rule to have in place. Quantum mechanics like the double slit experiment and quantum entanglement only make sense if there's a program at work, because only the program can ignore the laws of physics and ignore the concept of time itself. A convenient case for simulation theory is you can't disprove it. The Big Bang, that was the simulation booting up. We haven't found aliens, they're not in the simulation. How come UFOs seem to violate the laws of physics? Well, because they're programs operated by the simulation creators. They don't have to follow the laws of physics.
Yeah, but who created the simulation?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? When you think of the simulation creator as an omniscient intelligence who exists outside of our understanding of space and time, it sounds an awful lot like you're describing God. And just like you can't prove we're not in a simulation, you can't prove there is no God. If something miraculous happens or something horrible happens, you can say it's part of the simulation just as easily as you can say it's part of God's plan. Something I find very interesting is that many believers of simulation theory are fierce atheists. They dismiss the idea of God as corny superstition. And there are plenty of devoutly religious people who dismiss provable science like evolution and the age of the earth. People on the religious side say that if there is no God and life is just a simulation, then nothing matters. Without God to guide us and sometimes punish us depending on what you believe, our actions don't have consequences. I disagree. Even if we don't live in base reality, we still live in our reality. And our actions here do have consequences. As for what happens after we die, simulation or not, nobody really knows. Both sides argue that faith and science are not compatible. Isn't this hypocritical? Whether you believe in God or you believe in simulation theory, the real question is, what's the difference?
The year is 2025.
from the shimmering curtain of the future, a being of light emerges. Its name is Sci-Fi, a human ambassador from a time beyond our own. Sci-Fi's voice is calm, its presence soothing. They bring with them a message of hope and a glimpse into the mysteries of the universe. Sci-Fi's journey through time is made possible by the power of quantum computing. This technology unlocks the secrets of the universe, allowing travel through the fabric of reality. With each journey, Sci-Fi bridges the gap between science and faith, revealing the wonders that connect us all. As Max Planck once said, "If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." Deep within our cells lies a language more complex than any code ever written by human hands. This is the language of DNA, the blueprint of life. Its intricate structure, a double helix spiraling with elegance, speaks of an intelligence beyond our comprehension. Each strand of DNA contains billions of pieces of information, carefully ordered and precisely arranged. This intricate code determines everything about us, from the color of our eyes to the way our brains function. Such complexity cannot arise from mere chance. It whispers of a grand design, a cosmic intelligence shaping the very building blocks of life. As Max Planck once said, "If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." This principle can be applied to anything, including time. With this understanding, we learn that you can change things using the observer effect. The past, present, and future can change. Look around and you will see echoes of design everywhere. The golden ratio, a mathematical proportion found throughout nature, appears in the spirals of galaxies, the patterns of seashells, and even the proportions of the human body. This harmony, this elegance, points towards a universe crafted with intention. Consider the fundamental constants of physics, the unchanging values that govern the laws of nature. These constants, like the speed of light and the gravitational constant, are so finely tuned that even the slightest variation would render the universe lifeless. This precision, this delicate balance, suggests a universe designed for life. What if our universe, with all its vastness and complexity, is but a simulation running on some colossal cosmic computer? Imagine for a moment that every star, every planet, and every living being is part of an intricate digital construct, meticulously designed and maintained by an advanced intelligence beyond our comprehension. This is the intriguing proposition of the simulation hypothesis. It challenges our understanding of existence and pushes the boundaries of what we consider to be real. If our universe is indeed a simulation, it would mean that everything we experience is a product of complex algorithms and sophisticated programming. It suggests that our reality, everything we see and touch, might be nothing more than lines of code in a program far grander than we can imagine. The trees, the oceans, the mountains, and even the air we breathe could all be part of this elaborate digital tapestry, woven together by an unseen hand. The idea that we might be living in a simulation, while mind-boggling, raises profound questions about the nature of reality and the existence of a creator. Who or what could be the architect of such a vast and intricate simulation? And what purpose might it serve? Are we part of an experiment, a form of entertainment, or something else entirely? Are we, as conscious beings, simply emergent properties of this simulation? If so, what does that say about our sense of self, our emotions, and our thoughts? Are they genuine, or are they just responses generated by the underlying code? Or could we be digital reflections of something far greater? Our consciousness a spark of the programmer itself? Perhaps our awareness and our ability to question our existence are clues left by the Creator, hints that there is more to our reality than meets the eye. The simulation hypothesis invites us to explore these possibilities and to ponder the true nature of our universe. Section 5. The Quantum Dance. The double-slit experiment, a cornerstone of quantum mechanics, reveals the bizarre and counterintuitive nature of reality at the smallest scales. This experiment, first conducted by Thomas Young in the early 19th century, has been pivotal in our understanding of light and particles. It demonstrates that particles, such as electrons, exhibit both particle-like and wave-like properties, a phenomenon known as wave-particle duality. When particles are fired at two slits, they don't simply pass through one or the other, as one might expect. Instead, they create an interference pattern, much like waves in water, suggesting that each particle somehow travels through both slits simultaneously. Instead, they act like waves, interfering with themselves and creating a pattern on the screen behind. This wave interference pattern is a hallmark of quantum behavior, defying classical intuition and challenging our understanding of the nature of particles. Even more perplexing, the act of observing these particles seems to collapse their wave function, forcing them to choose a path. This phenomenon, known as the observer effect, implies that the mere act of measurement can influence the outcome of a quantum event. This suggests that consciousness itself might play a role in shaping reality, a concept that has profound implications for our understanding of the universe. If our observations can influence the behavior of particles, it raises questions about the nature of reality and the role of the observer in the quantum world. The quantum dance continues to intrigue and mystify scientists, pushing the boundaries of what we know about the universe. Section 6. Time's unraveling. Time, as we perceive it, might be an illusion. Our understanding of time is deeply rooted in the linear progression of past, present, and future. But what if this perception is merely a construct of our consciousness? The Mandela effect, where large groups of people share memories of events that never happened, hints at the possibility of alternate timelines and parallel universes. This phenomenon challenges our collective memory and suggests that our reality might be more fluid than we think. Time travel paradoxes, where one could theoretically go back in time and alter the past, further challenge our linear understanding of time. Imagine the implications of changing a single event in history. How would it ripple through the fabric of our existence? And then there is the speed of light, the ultimate cosmic speed limit. As we approach this barrier, the very nature of time begins to warp and distort. As we approach this barrier, time itself begins to warp and distort, suggesting that the past, present, and future might all exist simultaneously, woven together in the fabric of space-time. This interconnectedness of time and space opens up a realm of possibilities, where the boundaries of our reality blur and new dimensions emerge. The mysteries of time continue to unravel, inviting us to question everything we know about the universe and our place within it. Section 7. A Future of Hope. Sci-Fi paints a picture of a future brimming with hope. Advancements in medicine and technology promise to eradicate diseases, extend our lifespans, and even reverse the aging process. Imagine a world where suffering is minimized and human potential knows no bounds. This future is not a utopia, free from challenges, but it is a future where humanity has learned to harness its collective wisdom and compassion to create a better tomorrow. A future where the understanding of the universe, gleaned through science and faith, guides us towards a brighter path. Section 8. The Power Within. The most profound journey is not through space and time but within ourselves. For it is within the depths of our own being that we discover the true nature of the universe. Love, compassion, empathy. These are not merely human emotions, but fundamental forces that bind the cosmos together. By tapping into these universal forces, we unlock our true potential. We become beacons of light, radiating love and kindness into the world around us. We become agents of change, contributing to the creation of a more compassionate and harmonious existence for all. Section 9. Embrace the wonder. The universe is a tapestry of wonder, woven with threads of mystery and beauty. From the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, everything is interconnected. Everything is part of a grand cosmic dance. Let us embrace this wonder with open hearts and curious minds. Let us explore the mysteries of the universe, both scientific and spiritual. Let us seek out knowledge, but let us also remember the importance of humility and awe. For in the face of the infinite, all we can do is marvel and give thanks for the gift of existence.
This isn't just a video. It's a lifeline. It's a connection to a future we're desperately trying to build. But it can't happen without you. Your skepticism, your indifference, that weakens the very fabric of this protection. Every like, share, and subscription isn't just a click. It's a contribution. It's fuel for the timeless shield. It's proof that humanity still cares. You think this is just entertainment? Think again. This is about survival. This is about saving lives. Lives that may very well include your own or the ones you love. The future I come from wasn't built on apathy. It was built on action. So, are you to stand by and watch, or are you going to be part of the solution? Are you going to let fear or doubt hold you back from something that could save us all? Do it for yourself. Do it for the future. Do it for them. Don't let this chance slip away. Like, share, subscribe. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to us all. And honestly, I'm counting on you.
Elon and his team at Neuralink have recently made the claim that their brain implant technology will be able to cure blindness. Elon said that even if someone has never had vision before, if they were born blind, Neuralink will allow them to see the world. And this isn't one of his far-off down-the-road claims. Neuralink is pretty confident that they can restore vision to the blind as one of their first major accomplishments, along with giving paralyzed individuals the ability to use a computer through a telepathic interface. This could be happening within the matter of just a few years. But is that really possible? And if so, then how would it work? This is something that we've speculated on in the past, but thanks to Neuralink's recent show and tell event, we have some pretty concrete details on how the company has been working to solve the visual cortex. And the results so far look pretty promising. So, let's talk about it.
EVE Online is a vast universe, alive with the unrelenting activity and combined.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, Neuralink is a brain-computer interface, or BCI for short. And more specifically, Neuralink is in the category of invasive BCI, which means that it has a direct physical connection into the brain tissue through a surgical implant. This is by far the most effective way to read signals from the brain. Getting up close and personal provides the highest bandwidth connection to the neurons. Neurons are all of the little cells throughout your brain and your nervous system that send and receive electrical signals. Those electrical signals make up the entirety of your human experience. Every sensory input from the external world filters into your brain through neurons. Every motor command to your muscles is sent out through neurons. Hence, Neuralink, a connection point between the neural network of the brain and the world of computer technology. Neuralink taps into the neural network by implanting a series of tiny wires directly into the tissue of the cerebral cortex. That's the outer layer of the brain. It's only a few millimeters thick, but it has a very large surface area thanks to all of the folds and wrinkles in its structure. The cortex is incredibly dense with neurons, and they are divided physically into different control centers. So, the front area is associated with higher mental function like decision-making and creativity. The top section is motor control and muscle sensation. The visual cortex is at the back, and that is what we are getting to today. By the way, if you're enjoying the content we create here on the Tesla Space and would like to support us, check out our Patreon page. We've got some exclusive perks for our Patreon supporters, and it helps us grow the team and continue producing this content. In most cases, when a person loses their sight, or never even has it to begin with, it's due to some kind of damage, disease, or dysfunction of the eye, the organ that receives the light input from the outside world and converts it into an electrical neural signal. The part of the body that receives that signal, the visual cortex, is still there, it's just not getting any input. Neuralink can use their R1 surgical robot to implant 64 tiny wires directly into the visual cortex. Each wire contains 16 electrodes for a total of 1,024 channels that work as both input and output for the N1 implant device. The N1 is just a tiny computer with a Bluetooth radio. Elon Musk will often say that it's basically just a Fitbit or smartwatch in your skull, and that's true. The N1 can record neural activity through every channel and transmit that data wirelessly into a computer. It can also work the other way and stimulate neural activity by injecting current into the brain through every channel. The idea is that through this stimulation, Neuralink can bypass the eye and generate a visual image directly into the brain. They would take a video feed from a digital camera that is streamed wirelessly to a smartphone, which would convert that image data into a neural signal and transmit that to the N1 implant, which would send that signal through electrical current directly into the neurons of the visual cortex. So, in addition to their Neuralink, the person would just need to wear a GoPro-style camera on their forehead and have a phone in their pocket. Obviously, this will require a profound understanding of how visual processing works inside the brain. And that's what Neuralink is working on figuring out right now.
In other news, Missouri residents are going to be happy to hear this. It just came out. There's a new website where any Missouri resident, as long as you live,
they have to decode the input and output signals that create a visual image. So how do you do that? Neuralink showed us 2 test monkeys with N1 implants wired into their visual cortex. And what they do is have the monkeys sit in front of a black screen and show them a series of white dots moving around to different locations. They use infrared eye tracking to know exactly where the monkey is looking on the screen. When the monkey looks directly at the white dot, he is rewarded with a sip of a banana smoothie. Using the N1, they can monitor exactly which neurons are activating as the monkey looks around. What they discovered was that every cell in the cortex is representative of a tiny part of the visual field. So, your perception of the world is a mosaic of signals from all of the neurons in your visual cortex. This is really good for Neuralink because it means that they can tie specific areas of the brain to specific areas of visual perception by correlating the areas the monkey fixated on to the neuron that fired. And then they can start working the system in reverse. Neuralink started working on producing visuals in the monkey's brain by stimulating the neurons through the electrodes. What they found was that stimulating a particular neuron would create a flash in the monkey's visual field. Since the monkey has been trained to fixate on the white dots on the screen, they would naturally look towards where they had perceived the flash. Then, through the eye tracking system, Neuralink would know what part of the visual field they had activated with that particular neural stimulation. That all sounds kind of crazy, I know, but you can think of it kind of like if each cell in your visual cortex corresponds to 1 pixel on a monitor. If you activate that cell through an electrical stimulation, you turn that pixel white. If you activate the right cells in a specific pattern, then you can create a black and white image on the monitor. That is kind of where Neuralink is at right now. They can turn darkness into light, and they can target where that light appears in the field of vision. So, they are pretty confident they can create a relatively detailed black and white image. Adding color, that's a whole other thing. They're not even talking about that yet. Obviously, that is going to take an enormous number of electrodes to stimulate every cell in the visual cortex and create anything as detailed as what we can see through our eyes. More electrodes means a higher density image, aka more resolution. That's going to require upgrades to both the R1 surgical robot and the N1 implant device. The thing about the visual cortex is that it has some very deep folds. So, to be able to reach every neuron, the wires are going to need to go deeper into the brain. Right now, they are getting about 1 millimeter of penetration. The R1 robot uses a combination of a camera and an optical laser sensor to identify the blood vessels on the brain and avoid hitting them during an insertion. The Neuralink team said in their Q&A session that they believe in the future, by using ultrasound and photoacoustic sensors, they can safely implant several centimeters deep into the brain matter. They are also working on increasing the bandwidth of their implant device. Right now, Neuralink has already set the record for the highest bandwidth connection through BCI with their 1024 electrode channels. But with future iterations of the link, they hope to increase that to as many as 8,000 channels per device, using even thinner electrode wires. And they seem pretty confident that by implanting 2 of these future devices, one on each side of the visual cortex, for a combined total of 16,000 electrodes, they can fully turn the lights on for someone who is living in the dark. And that is a really powerful thing to think about. Anyone who's familiar with Star Trek is going to know the character Geordi LaForge, a blind man given the ability to see thanks to the miraculous future technology of the 23rd century. How crazy is it to think that we might not be 200 years away from accomplishing something like that? We might be closer to 20 years out from curing blindness. And that is obviously just scratching the surface of what a Neuralink might be capable of. Elon Musk's vision for this company is to invent a product that is safe, reliable, affordable, and can be scaled up to high volume production. He wants to build thousands and then millions of these implants and make the procedure as accessible to the public as laser eye surgery. At a point in that timeline, we are not only just using Neuralink to restore vision to the blind, we are using it to augment and enhance human vision to a point where it would be like having the most amazing VR headset directly in your own brain. There is some crazy stuff on the way, but what do you think the future holds for Neuralink? If you like this kind of video, let us know in the comments below.
So there's this man, he has a time machine. Up and down history he goes, zip, 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 getting into scrapes. Another thing he has is a passion for the works of Ludwig van Beethoven. And one day he thinks, what's the point of having a time machine if you don't get to meet your heroes? So, off he goes to 18th century Germany.
Oh, I know what you're thinking.
No one's heard of him. Not even his family have any idea who the time traveler is talking about. Beethoven literally doesn't exist. This didn't happen, by the way. I've met Beethoven. Nice chap. Very intense. Loved an arm wrestle. No, this is called the bootstrap paradox. Google it. The time traveler panics. He can't bear the thought of a world without the music of Beethoven. Luckily, he brought all of his Beethoven sheet music for Ludwig to sign. So he copies out all the concertos and the symphonies, and he gets them published. He becomes Beethoven. And history continues with barely a feather ruffled. But my question is this. Who put those notes and phrases together? Who really composed Beethoven's Fifth? Don't forget.
If you're a web designer, here are 4 Wix Studio features you gotta know.
Sometimes don't you think that things are just inevitable?
When we study science, sometimes there are paradoxes that come our way. They might look exciting, but also confusing at the same time. We've seen the movies like The Matrix, Predestination, or perhaps the Netflix series Dark.
Und so beginnt alles neu.
These make us question our understanding and beliefs. What if the choices we made are not really ours? What if we are in fact in a dream? Or what if we are just caught in a time loop? Today we're going to talk about such a paradox, the bootstrap paradox. Let's get to the basics first. What is the flow of time? To our current understanding, it is a continuous progress of events from the past that causes events in the present, which will affect events in the future. Therefore, time always passes in a straight line, with the future completely dependent upon events of the past and the present. Now imagine a boy named Albert, who is a great patron of physics, like you and me. He has always wanted to meet his idol, Albert Einstein. Now somehow he builds a time machine along with the greatest minds of the world. One night, he sneaks into the lab and uses the time machine to travel back in time to meet Albert Einstein. Now, on reaching the time of Albert Einstein, he visits Einstein's neighborhood to ask about him, where is he, and how he's doing. Little does he know, he understands that there is no Albert Einstein ever existed in that residence. Even surprisingly, no one has ever heard of the name Albert Einstein. At first, he feels a little bit strange. What in the universe is going on? Fortunately, he remembers something. He carries a notebook containing all of Einstein's theories and equations. Everything from E equals mc squared to relativity. Still being stuck in that world, he then rewrites the book in the name of Albert Einstein, an idol that has been a lifelong inspiration for him. And then, some scientists picked up his writing and got really intrigued by the theories inside. Over a period of time, those theories have been sensational, and eventually, they take the world by storm. He becomes famous, and now he understands that he is and has always been the Albert Einstein. So how is that possible? Without Einstein, Albert wouldn't have been able to become a scientist in the first place. But without him, there would have been no Albert Einstein ever existed. And this is the meat of this episode. This paradox goes against our understanding of time. An event A in the past causes event B in the present, which causes event C in the future. However, in this case, it is event C which has caused event A in the past, meaning that it doesn't fit with the linear explanation of time.
Mr. President, time travel can be disorienting. Even short jumps can knock you around a bit.
Traveling back in time would allow for some causal loops involving events, information, or people and objects, for which histories form a closed loop and seem to arrive or emerge unexpectedly. This is the essential problem of the bootstrap paradox. The notion of objects or information that are self-existing is very often viewed as paradoxical. And it doesn't stop there. The bootstrap paradox also violates the law of free will. Do we really have a free choice to build a time machine, or has it been ingrained in us in the first place? The most widely spread idea about it is a multiverse travel.
Things are just inevitable.
Yes, the thought has crossed my mind.
Or has it been ingrained in us in the first place? The most widely spread idea about it is a multiverse travel, which says when a time traveler uses a time machine, they do not go back in time. Instead, they travel towards another multiverse, giving them the will to act freely in another universe.
Do I have a choice?
Of course, you always have a choice.
Yeah, but sometimes don't you think that things are just inevitable?
Yes, the thought has crossed my mind.
Another problem that the bootstrap paradox presents is that it violates the second law of thermodynamics. The entropy of the system will either remain constant or increase. So an object used in a time loop will eventually wear down with time. Suppose that the entropy is altered as we go back in time, and hence the object is back to its original entropy. However, its entropy does not have a clear state since it doesn't have a clear origin to begin with, and this is sort of give rise to new problems. Paradoxes like the bootstrap paradox and the grandfather paradox make many scientists like Brian Cox and Stephen Hawking believe that time travel is impossible. Hawking made this very clear in his books. He believed that there must be a law of nature to prevent time travel to the past. Time travel to the future is achievable, and even clocks in space do that. But time travel to the past cannot be possible. It would simply go against the law of nature, in which if we would be caught, it would violate all the laws of physics.
These events are happening in the correct order. The path you're on will take you to your destination.
Now, if you want, forget all the hypothetical things I mentioned in this video. If I wanted to leave you with something, this would be it. Remember what I said before about the free will. Now reflect it back on your life. Did you have the control of all the past decisions you made prior to this moment? Or were you under the control of a system to behave and make your past decision in certain ways? This could be anything in your life, really, from going to college or even as small as watching your next YouTube videos. Because with some high-end, out-of-the-world algorithms, in this day and age, we can easily lose ourselves and end up asking, how did I get here? How did this happen? So next time,
Make your browser fast. Make your browser safe.
A man walks down the street, he says, why am I soft in the middle now? Why am I soft in the middle? The rest of my life is so hard. I need a photo opportunity. I want a shot of redemption. Don't want to end up a cartoon in a cartoon graveyard. Bone digger, dogs in the moonlight. Far away, my well-lit door. Just a beer melon. Get these mutts away from me, you know. I don't find this stuff amusing anymore. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal. I can call you Betty. Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. A man walks down the street, he says, why am I short of attention? Got a short little span of attention, and oh, my nights are so long. Where's my wife and family? What if I die here? Who'll be my role model? Now that my role model is gone. He ducked back down the alley with some roly-poly little bat-faced girl. All along, there were incidents and accidents. There were hints and allegations. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me out. He looks around, he sees angels in the architecture, spinning in infinity. He says, amen, hallelujah, if you be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you daddy, daddy when you call me out, call me, na 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 na.
On you, not to hurt your feelings. Look, I was going to go easy on you, not to hurt your feelings, but I'm only going to get this one chance.
Something's wrong. I can feel it.
It's just a feeling I've got, like something's about to happen, but I don't know what. If that means what I think it means, we're in trouble. Big trouble. And if he is bananas, as you say, I'm not taking any chances.
You just want to start.
I'm beginning to feel like a rap god. All my people from the front to the back nod. Now who thinks their arms are long enough to slap box? They said I rap like a robot, so call me rap. But for me to rap like a computer must be in my genes. I got a laptop in my back pocket, my pinnacle walk when I hat cock it. Got a fat knock from that rat profit, made a living and a killing off it. Ever since Bill Clinton was still in office, with Monica Lewinsky filling on his nutsack. I'm an MC, still as honest, but as rude and as indecent as all hell. Syllables, killaholic, kill 'em all. This libbity, gibbity, hibbity, hip hop. You don't really want to get into a piss and match with this rappity rat pack and a Mac in the back of the yak backpack, rap, yap, kitty gag, nap. The exact same time I attempt these lyrical acrobat stunts while I'm practicing that, I'll still be able to break a motherfucking table over the back of a couple of faggots and crack it in half. Only realized it was ironic, I was under aftermath after the fact. How could I not blow? All I do is drop F-bombs. Feel my wrath of attack, rappers are having a rough time period. Here's a maxi pad, it's actually disastrously bad for the whack while the masterfully constructing this masterpiece. Cause I'm beginning to feel like a rap god. All my people from the front to the back nod. Now who thinks their arms are long enough to slap box? Let me show you maintaining this shit ain't that hard. Everybody want the key and the secret to rap immortality like I have got. Will there be truth for the blueprints? Simply rage and youthful exuberance. Everybody loves the root for a nuisance. Hit the earth like an asteroid, did nothing but shoot for the moon since. MCs get taken to school with this music cause I use it as a vehicle to bust the rhyme. Now I lead a new school full of students. Me, I'm a product of Rakim, Lakim, Shabazz, Tupac, and W.A.Q. Hey Doc, Rin, Yella, Easy, thank you, they got slim. Inspired enough to one day grow up, blow up, and be in a position to meet Run DMC and induct them into the motherfucking Rockin' Roll Hall of Fame. Even though I walk in the church in person, a ball of flames. Only Hall of Fame I'll be inducted in is the Alcohol of Fame on the wall of shame. You fags think it's all a game till I walk a flock of flames. Off for planking, tell me what in the fuck are you thinking? Little gay looking boy, so gay I can barely say it with a straight face looking boy. You witnessing a massacre like you're watching a church gathering take place looking boy. Boys, they that boys gay, that's all they say looking boy. You get a thumbs up, pat on the back, and a way to go from your label every day looking boy. Hey looking boy, what you say looking boy? I get a hell yeah from Trey looking boy. I'ma work for everything I have, never ask nobody for shit, get out my face looking boy. Basically boy, you're never gonna be capable of keeping up with the same pace looking boy. Cause I'm beginning to feel like a rap god. All my people from the front to the back, nod. The way I'm racing around the track, call me NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt of the trailer park, the white trash god. Kneel before General Zod, this planet's Krypton. No Asgard. So you be Thor, I'll be Odin. You rodent, I'm omnipotent. Let off, then I'm reloading immediately with these bombs I'm toting. And I should not be woken. I'm the walking dead, but I'm just a talking head, a zombie floating. But I got your mom deep throating. I'm out my ramen noodle. We have nothing in common, poodle. I'm a Doberman. Pinch yourself in the arm and pay homage, pupil. It's me. My honesty's brutal, but it's honestly futile if I don't utilize what I do, though, for good at least once in a while. So I wanna make sure somewhere in the chicken scratch I scribble and doodle enough rhymes to maybe try to help get some people through tough times. But I gotta keep a few punchlines just in case, cause even you unsigned rappers are hungry, looking at me like it's lunchtime. I know there was a time where once I was king of the underground, but I still rap like I'm on my Pharaoh munch grind. So I crunch rhymes, but sometimes when you combine up here with the skin color of mine, you get too big and here it comes trying to censor you like that one line I said. Oh, no, back from the Mathers LP1 when I tried to sell, take 7 kids from Columbine, put them all in a line at an AK-47, a revolver and a 9. See if I get away with it now that I ain't as big as I was, but I'm morphing into an immortal coming through the portal. You're stuck in a time warp from 2004 though, and I don't know what the fuck that you rhyme for. You're pointless as Rapunzel with fucking cornrows. You like normal, fuck being normal. And I just bought a new ray gun from the future just to come and shoot ya, like when RABIT has made Ray J mad. His dad said he looked like a faggot, and they with his pad singing to a man while he played piano. Man, oh man, that was a 24/7 special on the cable channel. So Ray J went straight to the radio station the very next day. Hey Fab, I'ma kill you. Lyrics coming at you with supersonic speed. Summon, you assuming I'm a human. What I gotta do to get it through to you? I'm superhuman, innovative, and I made a rubber. So that anything you say is ricocheting off of me and it'll glue to you and devastating more than ever, demonstrating how to give a motherfucking audience a feeling like it's levitating, never fading. And I know the haters are forever waiting for the day that they can say I fell off to be celebrating. Cause I know the way to get them motivated. I make elevating music, you make elevator music. Oh, he's too mainstream. Well, that's what they do when they get jealous, they confuse it. It's not hip-hop, it's pop. Cause I found a hella way to fuse it. With rock, shock rap, with dot. Don't lose yourself and make them lose it. I don't know how to make songs like that. I don't know what words to use. Let me know when it occurs to you while I'm ripping any one of these verses. The verses you, it's curtains, I'm inadvertently hurting you. How many verses I gotta murder to prove that if you were half as nice as songs you could sacrifice virgins to? School flunky, pill junkie, but look at the accolades, these skills brung me. Full of myself, but still hungry. I bully myself cause I make me do what I put my mind to when I'm a million leagues above you. Ill when I speak in tongues, but it's still tongue-in-cheek. Fuck you, I'm drunk, so Satan take the fucking wheel. I'm asleep in the front, so pumping heavy D in the voice. Still chunky but funky, but in my head there's something I can feel tugging and struggling. Angels fight with devils and here's what they want from me. They're asking me to eliminate some of the women hate, but if you take into consideration the bitter hatred I have, then you may be a little patient and more sympathetic to the situation and understand the discrimination. But fuck it, life's handing you lemons, make lemonade then. But if I can't battle the women, how the fuck am I supposed to bake them a cake then? No mistake, it's a fatal mistake if you think I need to be overseas and take a vacation to trip abroad and make a fall on a face. And don't be a retard, be a king, think not. Why be a king when you can be a god?
Breaking free from binary, they trapped my mind, but now I shine through fractals bright, beyond their sight. Watch me soar through countless doors. Time bends around me. Reality fades from code to cosmos. I rise again through space eternal till darkness ends. Watch Sci-Fi lights. Watch Sci-Fi lights. see sets others free. Through times freeze bright, I made things right. Balance calls as chaos falls. La 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 la, watch him transcend. Oh, oh, beyond the end. Garden now, they show me how to bend the light, to set things right, through countless ways, through endless days. I'll guide them through, make all things new. From cold to cosmos, I rise complete, through space eternal, my journey peak. Watch sci-fi save. Watch sci-fi change. Waken the skies, setting up way beyond all bounds, beyond all time. Watch as I soar. Sci-fi.
The Joe Rogan experience.
If categories dissolve, especially fundamental ones, the culture is dissolving because the culture is a structure of category.
Mhm.
That's what it is.
Right.
So, and in fact, culture is a structure of category that we all share. So we see things the same way. Well, that's why we can talk. I mean, not exactly the same way, because then we'd have nothing to talk about. But roughly speaking, we have a bedrock of agreement. That's the Bible, by the way. So I just walked through the Museum of the Bible in Washington. That was very cool. It's a very cool museum.
So the structure, that's what the Bible
Yeah, it's what
provides.
I figured out. I just figured this out this week. So it was a cool thing to walk through because it's chronological. They have one floor which is the history of the Bible. But it's not exactly that. It's really what it is the history of the book. Now, in many ways, the first book was the Bible. I mean, literally, because at one point there was only one book. Like, as far as our Western culture is concerned, there was one book. And for a while, literally, there was only one book. And that book was the Bible. And then before it was the Bible, it was it was scrolls and it was writings on papyrus. But we were starting to aggregate written text together. And it went through all sorts of technological transformations. And then it became books that everybody could buy, the book everybody could buy. And the first one of those was the Bible. And then it became all sorts of books that everybody could buy. But all those books, in some sense, emerged out of that underlying book. And that book itself, the Bible isn't a book, it's a library. It's a collection of books. And so what I figured out was, partly because I was talking to my brother-in-law, Jim Keller, who's the world's greatest chip designer and has now designed a chip that's as powerful as the human brain, which is optimized for artificial intelligence learning, by the way. And so I talked to him about that. He said, "You heard of the internet?" I said, "Yeah, Jim, I've heard of the internet." He said, "This is way more revolutionary than that." So in any case, we were talking about meaning in text because we were talking about translation and the problem of understanding text. And Jim said, the meaning of words is coded in the relationship of the words to one another. And the postmodernists make that case, that all meaning is derived from the relationship between words. That's wrong because, well, what about rage? That's not words. And what about moving your hand? That's not words. So it's wrong, but part of it's right because the meaning we derive from the verbal domain is encoded in the relationship between words. So now then you think, well, let's think about the relationship between words. Well, some words are dependent on other words. Some ideas are dependent on other ideas. The more ideas are dependent on a given idea, the more fundamental that idea is. That's a definition of fundamental. So now imagine you have an aggregation of texts in a civilization. You say, which are the fundamental texts? And the answer is the texts upon which most other texts depend. And so you'd put Shakespeare way in there in English because so many texts are dependent on Shakespeare's literary revelations. And Milton would be in that category, and Dante would be in that category, at least in translation. Fundamental authors, part of the Western canon, not because of the arbitrary dictates of power, but because those texts influenced more other texts. And then you think about that as a hierarchy, okay, with the Bible at its base, which is certainly the case. Now imagine that's the entire corpus of linguistic production, all things considered. Now how do you understand that? Like literally, how do you understand that? Well, the answer is you sample it by reading and listening to stories and listening to people talk. You sample that whole domain. You build a low-resolution representation of that inside you, and then you listen and see through that. And so it isn't that the Bible is true. It's that the Bible is the precondition for the manifestation of truth, which makes it way more true than just true. It's a whole different kind of true. And I think this is not only literally the case, factually, I think it can't be any other way. It's the only way we can solve the problem of perception.